guys, in this video I'll demonstrate how to use the increment and decrement operators plus and minus in both prefix and postfix notation. I then go and cover the special consideration that we have to think of when we use these operators as part of another statement. Let's start out by declaring a variable of type int named a initialized to 1. In many programs, we want to update the value of the value. And a very common update operation is adding 1 to it, the increment operation. The standard way of updating the value by 1 would be reading the value, adding 1 to it, and assigning it back to a. Now, you should have already watched my other video on compound operators. And with the compound operator, we can use make this a little bit shorter with plus equal 1. Now the increment operator is even shorter. We can just write a plus. This one uses postfix notation. Postfix simply means plus comes after the variable a. There's also prefix notation, which does plus a, and this uses prefix notation. So this does plus first and then the variable a. All these four are equivalent when we have the statement just alone. All of them just add 1 to a. There's really no difference. There's a critical difference, which I go into later, when we use these increment operations as part of another statement. Now, you may wonder, why do we have 4 different ways of doing the same thing? The first one is a standard way of updating a variable. Because it's very common to use the same variable on both sides, where we just want to take the current value of a variable and perform some operation, we get the compound operation. And then very common is that we increment or decrement by 1. And so this is why these two operators exist. And that's how we get basically 4 different ways of performing the same thing. Now let's look into the decrement operator. The decrement operator simply uses a minus 1 and assigns the result back to a. It also has a compound syntax with a compound operator, a minus equal 1. Then we have a minus, which is postfix notation. The minus comes after a. And we have minus a, which is prefix notation. So again, the 4 different ways, just with minus. If you think, do we have these also for multiplication and for division? No. The reason is, if we multiply by 1 or we divide by 1, it doesn't really change the value. So we only have this for addition and subtraction. Let's look into the special consideration we have to think of when we use the increment or decrement operators as part of another statement. So I reset a, I assign 1 to it, so now a is 1, and just to get started and show you, I output a, and when I run this, a will now be 1. Now I will output it again, so I have an output statement, but what I will do now is I use a plus. So I use the increment operation as part of the output statement. We know already the previous one outputted 1. What will this line output? Now, when you're new to these operators, the first guess would be 2. However, when I run this, I still get 1. This is important because it uses now the increment operator and the increment operator in postfix notation. And postfix notation means we have the variable first, so we read the value of a, and then we increment a. So we read a, and that part is part of the statement, reading the value of A. A was 1, we haven't done anything to A, so now A is 1, it outputs A, and then it increments A. So after the entire statement, the entire line is executed, we now have A as 2. So if I simply put out A after that line, what should this one be? This one should now be 2. And we can see here it is 2. So this whole block, let me put a header up there. Is the increment operation in postfix notation. Let's do the same thing in prefix notation. So I reset A back to 1. So A will now be 1. I output here the increment operation. Now I use prefix. And at first I just output A. Then I want to output A again, but as part of the output statement, I perform plus plus A. That's what I wanted to do. So I use plus 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 A. So let's run this. I added quite some code. So I initialized A to 1. I use now increment prefix notation. So I output A, and then I output plus plus A. So here we have postfix. Now we are at the prefix. A is 1. Now I use plus plus A, and I get 2. Why do I get 2 this time? I get 2 because now I switch these two things. I increment A first, and then I read A. So as part of the statement, first A gets incremented, and then it will be read as part of the statement. Versus when I use postfix notation, it reads the value first, outputs it, and increments it afterwards. Here we increment it first, before the statement gets, the full statement that it is part of gets executed. And here the statement that it's part of gets executed first, so it reads A, output it, and afterwards A is incremented. Now if I output A again, what will be the value of A? It should still be 2, because we didn't really change anything. Now the same applies to the decrement operators. So I reset A to 1. I output now a header here, decrement in postfix notation. And then I output A. This should give us 1 again. Now I run it, we get 1. Now let's use decrement operation, and we use it postfix. So I do A minus minus, A minus minus. I think I miss a quote here. There should be a semicolon. And what will the value be here? Now it should be either 1 or 0. We run it and see what we get. It is 1. Why is it 1? Because we use postfix notation as part of the statement it is of, the output statement. It read A is 1, and after it outputted and executed the output statement, it incremented, it decremented A. So it subtracted 1 from A. Now if we output it again, we should get 0. There we go. So A minus minus simply means output A is 1, and after that statement, after I output it, I decrement it. Now if I do the same, I reset A to 1, I output A, I add a header to it, system output print line, decrement, and now I use prefix notation. And here what I do is I do minus minus a. So this one obviously is 1. What will this value be? It will now be 0 because we decrement a first and then we read a as part of the statement. So a will be 0 and then we output it. I can run this. And here we see we outputted a, then first we decremented it and then we read the value. So a is 0. If I output it again, it will still be 0. There we go. It's still 0. Now here, I forgot to fill in the comment. This one would be 1, and now here it will be 0. So these are the special considerations we have to think of. I used all of these as part of the output statement, but this could be also as part of an assignment. We can use that as in many other statements as well, as part of function calls, as part of conditions when we compare two values. So we always want to see, do we use postfix or prefix notation? Do we read the value before we update it, or do we update the value first? For example, if I declare a new variable and I initialize it to a++. Now let me reset actually a before. So a is 1. Now when I do a++ equal b, what will b be? So here, what is b? Now let's output it and see what we get. We get an error. Oh, because I initialized a, I just wanted to use an assignment, not an initialization. So let's run this again. We get b is 1. Now it is 1 because again we used postfix notation. So we read a and then incremented a. So we read a, assign a, read a for the statement that we're doing. It's an assignment. So we read a, it's 1, assign 1 to b, and after that whole statement executes, we increment a. And obviously, if we have another variable, it's the same. Whenever we have it as part of a statement, be it an output statement, an assignment statement, or later, if you learn about conditions, we compare that value. If we were to compare the value here with a to something else, we want to see when we use these increment or decrement operators, check out first, is it prefix or postfix? Basically, do I read the value first and then update it? Or do I update it first and then I read it? I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you for watching.